young beat writer by the name of John McClain was covering the team back in 1980, and he joins me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, John?
Rich, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I mentioned the name Ken Stabler. You say what?
I say a character that don't make them like him anymore.
Why?
Kenny was larger than life. He was a great guy, treated everybody tremendously. He loved women. He loved to party, drank like crazy. Every day he would come in after practice, come out of the shower, sit in his chair naked, cross one leg over the other, smoke a cigarette, answer every question we had. One time when he didn't show up for practice one day in 1980, no excuse. Next day, he's sitting in front of his locker, and we said, Snake, where were you yesterday? He goes, yesterday was Veterans Day. I'm a veteran, so I took the day off. And I don't think Bum Phillips even fined him.
Because of that excuse? Because of that?
He was mischievous, impish, but he was not a great quarterback by the time he came to the Oilers. They were 11-5 that year, but he had 13 touchdowns and 28 interceptions. But he in a Jets game, Rich, they play at Shea Stadium. Oilers run beating Jets were winless. Bum Phillips told them, now look, I don't usually have a curfew, but I got one. Specifically, Snake, I don't want you out in Manhattan. He put the team up in Jersey. Snake stayed out all night. Next morning, it was a 1 o'clock game. They're getting ready for the team breakfast. He pulls up in a cab, struggles out, goes in, didn't sleep, didn't eat, goes out in the first half, throws 4 interceptions. They're down 21-0. Halftime, Bum's trying to make a speech. He's in there throwing his guts up in the bathroom. All the players can hear it. He comes out, wipes his mouth with a towel, says, I'm ready to go, threw 4 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter to force overtime, and they lost in overtime. And you don't see that happening anymore. He used to say, because he liked to party, he read the playbook by the light of a jukebox.
John McClain of the Houston Chronicle joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Just hearing these stories from just 1980 towards the end of his career makes me think, what in the world must John Madden have been dealing with in that locker room?
You remember,
Oakland?
Rich, that famous story? They were. I don't know if it was a Super Bowl victory. I think it was. Madden was going crazy on the sideline, and Snake ends up going over to the sideline for a meeting with Madden. Madden's going crazy. Snake looks up the stands, says, John, these fans sure are getting their money's worth, aren't they? And Madden like, well, what? We got to talk about the next play. He had, early in his career, I used to love to talk to him because I was young. I was impressionable. I had watched him with the Raiders and thought with 2 minutes left behind, there was nobody better. And he would tell me, I said, why were you drafted in 68? But you weren't around for 2 years. He said, I was on the taxi squad, and then I lived in a hippie commune. I played in another league, and in 1970 I was going to quit because I was on the bench again, and George Blanda pulled me off the side and said, son, these early years when you're not playing saves wear and tear on your body. That's going to add years on the end of your career when you're going to be making a whole lot of money.
Yeah, he was playing.
Sure enough, 38 years old, making $300,000. That put him at the top of the league.
Yeah, he was played with the Spokane Shockers in the Continental Football League in 1968 and 69 before joining the Raiders. And this was after playing for Bear Bryant. That's a fascinating path to the NFL, John.
Rich, he didn't start really full-time until 73. He put him ahead in the Immaculate Reception. And then, of course, the Steelers came back to win. But a friend of mine went down to where he lives south of Houston, and they had a big club on I-45 South called Kenny Stabler's Diamondback Saloon. The urban cowboy craze had started here with the movie Urban Cowboy being filmed at Gilley's, and everybody, including me, wore these big cowboy hats with big feathers, wore boots, big belt buckles, and here comes Snake in his Bronco, salt and pepper beard, cowboy hat, alligator boots, actually. And a friend of mine went down to his townhouse one time. Snake calls him out back. He's in a hot tub. He's got 4 girls. Friend said, I didn't bring any trunks. He said, well, you don't need trunks. Come on in. He gets in. Says, Snake, you're a generous man having 2 women for me. And Snake says, I don't have two for you. This one here is for you. The three are for me.
John McClain of the Houston Chronicle joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Why isn't Kent Stabler in the Hall of Fame, John?
Rich, I've been on the committee more than 20 years, and only once has he seriously come up as a candidate. And it wasn't that anybody said Snake Stabler doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Just that year when he was a finalist, people deemed more. If you look at his stats, he was great with the Raiders from 73 when he became a full-time starter through 79. Near the end, they didn't go to the playoffs. Now Davis soured on him. Dan Pastorini had asked to be traded here because he was angry that the fans had cheered when he was hurt. In 79, Bum Phillips gave him his word. So it was the biggest one-on-one exchange of players in NFL history. And Snake came here that year and had 13 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. You look back at his career, he had a lot more interceptions and touchdowns. But I've always thought for the longest time, Rich, people said, who do you think should be in that isn't? I said Bob Hayes. Now when they've asked me, I say Kenny Stabler, because we all know if we watched him with the Raiders, Holy Rollers, Sea of Hands, Goes to the Post, some of the greatest plays in history he was involved in. And when he had the ball with 2 minutes left, you were hoping like crazy you weren't the other team.
John McClain of the Houston Chronicle joining me here. As always, John, I like to hit you up on things, all things Houston sports before I do let you go. Quite the NBA drama playing out in that city a couple nights ago.
It was amazing. DeAndre Jordan is from here, played a year at Texas A&M. He's got a nice house here. And it was unbelievable, the stories that were out on Twitter, Mark Cuban driving around trying to find his address while Ballmer and Griffin and Chris Paul were at his house playing cards, waiting for 12:01 so they could sign him. And Blake Griffin was tweeting pictures of the door barred, but there was no media out there. But I've never seen anything like it. People in Houston love it because anything that makes Mark Cuban bad, they eat it up.
But, John, in all seriousness, though, the fact that Cuban didn't know his address strikes me as a little odd. That
Of course he would know his address.
But
he's infuriated about that report, Rich. The reporter, Chris Broussard of ESPN, is the one that reported it, and he says he stands by his sources. But, of course, Cuban would know. I'm guessing Mark Cuban's got a GPS on his phone and in his car. He said that Jordan told him, I'm on a date, so there was no reason to go to the house.
Well, I mean, in that respect, yeah. And plus, he would want to make sure that he's going to get the one-on-one meeting with Jordan before he rings the doorbell, right? He's not going to just walk up to a house and bang on the door knowing on Twitter that everything's going on in the house.
Of course he's not. That's why some of these reports seem so preposterous, but it's an all-timer. I don't know if I've never understood why the NBA operates the way it does. You agree and then you sign later. I don't know why the rules aren't. If you agree, you sign immediately.
Well, I mean, look at the NFL, though. The NFL's created that 3-day window. Frank Gore went from San Francisco to Philly, potentially back to San Francisco, went to Indianapolis in just 48 hours this year,
they
John.
created that 3-day window recently, and they haven't had a high profile. Gore was the most high profile, but if they had one like DeAndre Jordan, the Clippers, and the Mavs, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't change it. But I can't imagine anybody relishes what happened except Twitter. You know, the NBA is getting a lot of attention now, and anytime it gets attention away from the NFL, that's always good.
John McClain of the Houston Chronicle joining me here on the program. The Astros, you concerned about the recent, I guess, road trip and how the Angels are coming on strong? What is the sense of the Astros right now, John?
We sure are. A lot of people, Rich. Nobody expected them to do what they've done. People kind of hold their breath. They lost George Springer, their second-best player, to Carlos Correa for 2 months. They got a great pitcher in Dallas Keuchel. It's not the pitching, it's the hitting. They're designed to hit homers or strike out. Unfortunately, right now, Rich, they're striking out a lot more than they're hitting homers, and people are holding their breath because they see Pujols and Trout coming on strong. So wouldn't surprise me at all if they don't blow this.
And the Hard Knocks series will have the Houston Texans front and center. Give me the name of somebody who's going to be a star on HBO that I'm not expecting to be for that
Ben
series.
Jones, the center, started at left guard the last 2 years, moved to center, replaced Chris Myers, big old country boy from Georgia. Rich, he'll eat anything if you give him $20. There's a bug cockroach crawling along. You say, hey, Ben, I'll give you $20 to eat that cockroach. That cockroach is gone. And so his teammates, we don't see that in the media. We hear the stories, but now with Hard Knocks cameras behind the scenes, every player on the team, when asked the question, you just asked me, says Ben Jones.
I got to ask you the poll question before I let you go at richeisenshow.com. You want to read it to him, Brockman, for me, please?
You got it. Hey, John, what's the best the NFL nickname? So nickname that has the in it, the fridge, the snake, the minister of defense, the bus, or the galloping ghost?
Right now, as a tribute to the late, great Kenny Stabler, I'm going to say the snake, because if you know anything about NFL history, you say snake, you know who it is instantaneously. Kenny Stabler, R.I.P.
And in that respect, he gone at age 69, John. It's obviously a young age, but from what I'm hearing from you, he packed a lot in those 69 years.
He packed a lot, and I tell you, it's a great thing. Get a colonoscopy. You hit 50 years old, get one. It's the only way you can detect early signs of colon cancer, because if you have to find out the other way, a lot of times it's fail or a lot of serious surgery. So get a colonoscopy. I just had one 2 weeks ago. They're a piece of cake, no matter what you hear.
Yeah, we had Mike Haynes on the program just last month. He said the same thing, John. So I'm into that.
Kenny Stabler was a great guy, Rich, tremendous on the field, off the field. Everybody loved him. A true Alabama legend right up there with great quarterbacks like Joe Namath and Bart Starr.
John, you're the man. Thanks for sharing all those great stories with us.
My pleasure, Rich. Thank you for having me.
That's at McClain _on_ NFL on Twitter. John McClain of the Houston Chronicle.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.